Hello, I'm Kim Linder, the host of the Caregiver Hour radio show. We've had a great show today because we've had different experts come and speak about how to approach your parents when having the, capital T-H-E, conversation, perhaps about moving into a retirement community or even assisted living. And I'm so proud to have Dr. Nancy Dreyfus, author of, and she's a psychotherapist, but also she's an author of a book called Talk to Me Like I'm Someone You Love. So Nancy, it's great to have you here today.
Oh, thank you. It's delightful being here.
Well, good. I just wanted to help our listeners, our caregivers, and they can be professional caregivers or family caregivers, get an idea of some of the difficultness and the awkwardness that happens when having this conversation with their parent.
Well, you know, conventional wisdom would say, well, our parents took care of us and now we're going to take care of them. Mm-hmm. But it's never so easy. Right. And the conventional wisdom also says just be loving and respectful of your parents. I say this is going to be an awkward conversation that's going to bring up ambivalence. Who's really taking care of who? How well did they really take care of me? What are my duties? Do I have to sacrifice myself to prove my love? And what I would like listeners to consider is that this is a time to get a little comfortable with both awkwardness and ambivalence, in the idea that they may be having the most authentic conversation they have had with their parents in decades, because we're talking about something real.
So I love that concept about authentic, because we've talked about the authentic caregiver, but talk about the authentic conversation. Like, how do we do that? How do we make that happen?
There's a subtext to a conversation like this. If you really loved me, you'd be taking care of me, not putting me in assisted living, right, for instance. Mm-hmm. I say if the subtext is put on the table, everything's going to go easier. So you say to your parent, does it feel to you like the fact that we want you to go in assisted living means that we don't care about you, or we're trying to get rid of you, or we're not doing our job? It's like letting the parent give voice to the feelings and be heard, and then they discover that they're just a feeling. They're not necessarily the facts.
Do you know what you just said was a golden nugget, and I will tell you why. Because as a caregiver coach, I come across sometimes the family member who's going to be going maybe into assisted living say, you know what, my daughter never even asked me my feelings about it, and you're here saying talk about it up front.
Absolutely, and I want to give a tip to everyone around communication with your elderly, with your child, with anyone, is to talk in parts. It's an amazing thing to say to a parent, is there a part of you that's hating me right now?
Yeah, because that could be a possibility.
So it's just a feeling. It doesn't completely contaminate the whole picture, so we're having a war about whether I'm a good child, or whether you're feeling taken care of, or I'm doing my job, or what I owe you or what I didn't owe you. It's not a black and white conversation.
What happens if the adult child is talking to the parent and you see the parent just kind of shut down? Is that the time to keep going, or is that the time to kind of pause?
No, probably would be, it's a great question, it would probably be the time to say, to empathize with the parent and say, I can see this is really hard to talk about. Is there anything any feedback you could give me right now that would make you feel safer with me?
Wow, oh my God.
Because it's all about safety.
Yes.
It's all about safety. If I'm shutting down, it's because I'm not feeling safe with you.
Right. We were talking about all the fear that ends up happening on the table, and to me that brings another question is, what are the emotions that are triggered with this conversation?
Well, typically the adult child can feel that they're being thwarted, that the parent doesn't immediately want to rush into assisted living.
Right. And
in a classic situation, the parent will say, we're fine as we are. I'm fine as I am. And the child will say, are you out of your mind?
Right.
And already we have a power struggle
going
where there's no listening taking place. And often what happens is, from many experiences in the past, the adult child's issues about being taken seriously are going to surface. And what you need to tell yourself is that these issues have been there for a long time, and you have to sort of monitor yourself not to take it personally when your parent initially looks at you like you have rocks in your head and that you're torturing them.
So is there any way that this conversation could be a healing process, since we're coming from our past with some of the stuff that we've always done, and the parent is also viewing us the same way they've always looked at us? Is there a way that there could be a healing process with this?
And the key word here is vulnerability. For the adult child to say, I'm worried that you're upset with me. for the adult child to say, I'm worried that you don't really think I'm doing right by you.
Okay.
For the adult child to say, I'm worried you think that I'm lazy. All the subtext gets put on the table in an enormous amount of vulnerability. And I would say, in most cases, when the parent sees the child's vulnerability, the parent softens a bit. They see that the child is struggling with this. So it's the job of the adult child to go from being the master with the whip,
Right.
get thee to assisted living, to show their own struggle in this, so that something much more relational and mutual can occur.
Well, I hope my caregivers are really hearing all of this, because it's just gold. You've given us so much gold. I was wondering if you had a last-minute tip for caregivers, Nancy.
I think a last-minute tip for caregivers would be to let it be a little rocky, to know what your own childhood triggers are, and to understand that your parent really doesn't want to burden you, and your parent is struggling with an enormous amount of loss.
Right.
To try to see it from your parent's point of view while you're holding on to your own
I
voice.
love that. Well, that's perfect. Thank you so much. What if someone wants to read your book or get in touch with you with a question? How do they
They
do
can
that?
go to nancydreyfus.com, DREYFUS, and they can write me at nancydreyfus@nancydreyfus.com.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you. We are just so excited to have guests like this on our show, to be able to give you the wisdom and to help you stay empowered and centered and grounded as you have your journey as a caregiver. And always remember to create the balance of taking care of yourself as well as your loved one. And this was a perfect example today. And I invite you to listen to our show every Monday on 12:50 a.m. WHNZ, and that's Monday from 11 a.m. to 12 noon Eastern Standard Time on 12:50 a.m. WHNZ.